I'd found my place. I stayed 10 years. We won 2 NBA championships. Standing at center court, with your fist raised in the air, chills going up and down your spine, a smile frozen on your face, knowing you're the best in the world. Now, that's a thrill. It lasted about 48 hours. Then you had to go back to practice and try to do it all again the following year.
The film is called Rolling Along, an American Story, produced by Spike Lee and Frank Oz, directed by Mike Tollin, and written by Bill Bradley. And it is now streaming on Max, where I have watched it twice and will be watching it again. Joining us now is the highest scorer in Princeton basketball history, Rhodes Scholar, New York Knicks star with 2 championship rings, United States Senator, devoted father, and losing presidential candidate Bill Bradley. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me on, Lawrence.
You know, I'm beginning with losing, because in this story, there's very little losing, but there's a big loss in that presidential campaign that you had aimed at so carefully and modestly. And we see in this story that losing is a larger experience than winning. You just described winning as a kind of a 48-hour experience, but the losing stayed with you for a while. Talk about that period.
Well, I lost badly, and it went into a period of self-reflection where I began to think about who I was and what I wanted to do in the next part of my life. And it was deeply enriching. You know, it gave me a sense of myself in a way that I didn't have before. And it kind of guided me to follow the path that would be true to myself and pay attention to the wonders in the world.
And it's hard to imagine this piece that you've done without that loss shifting you into this more reflective mode.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, you know, this piece, I didn't start out to do this piece. Somebody suggested to me, I'd produced 72 plays on Broadway, that after he heard me talk about a few friends, I gave my papers to her Princeton, and they'd done oral history. And I stood up and talked about each one of them and told stories. Afterwards, he said, you know, it sounds a little bit like Hal Holbrook doing Mark Twain. You ought to work something up. And so I did. It wasn't until that moment that I thought of doing this.
And Spike Lee, big Knicks fan, comes on board. Frank Oz, great director, producer, Mike Tollin, and here
had a lot of angels.
You did. Here we are. Yeah. There was a great moment that in the Finance Committee conference room, which if you're watching a Senate hearing on C-SPAN, there's a door right behind the chairman, and through that door is a very big, lovely, what you'd expect conference room for the Senate Finance Committee. I was walking by in 1994 when you were doing an interview with the Washington Post about our legislative environment, which looked pretty grim at the time. And you were giving all the accurate answers, then the reporter kind of said, well, it looks pretty grim. And you said, I heard you say this, and I'm going to read it from the Washington Post where they printed it. You said, I'm in the optimism business. I can't afford to see only the dark side of things. And I heard that out of this ear as I was going back in the committee room. I'm in the optimism business. And I realized I wasn't, and I never had been. And it was the first moment I began to think of optimism as something other than naive. What allows you to hang on to optimism, and in this environment, for example, that we're in now?
Well, you know, I think we can learn a lot from what made our Knicks team successful so many years ago. Like, take responsibility for yourself, respect your fellow human being, disagree with them openly, honestly, civilly, enjoy their humanity, and then what my grandmother said, never look down on somebody you don't understand. And so it starts with a set of values of what you believe about what is possible. And, you know, one of the reasons I did this film was to try to create some healing in the country, very divided. And yet I was so personal because I wanted to encourage other people to tell their stories. And if that happens, we find that there's a common humanity that we all share. And it's that common humanity that I'm betting on. Not R&D, I'm betting on a common humanity.
When you when you look at the way governing is happening now, I mean, I look at it and I certainly don't recognize it from the time that we were there. And by the way, when we were there in the 1990s, we thought this is as hard as it gets. We thought it was as bad as it gets, right?
Money was doing it.
Yeah, we thought it can't get worse than this. Right. And still, we could do things. You could do things. You could get things done, and you could do reasonable things with Bob Dole, the Republican majority leader, who was a member of the Senate Finance Committee. And now, what do you see when you look at it?
Well, it's not like we can't get things done. I mean, President Biden's got a big infrastructure bill done, got a CHIPS bill that will create thousands of manufacturing jobs. He's, limiting what people have to pay on some of the drug costs. So we can get things done. It's just the atmosphere is poisoned in some way by partisanship and social media. And these, in some cases, the Republicans are not bad people. They just need more courage to stand up for what they truly believe, as opposed to just caving to whatever the pressure is at the moment. And I think Democrats have to reach out and get to know people as human beings. When Cory Booker, for example, went to the Senate for the first time, he asked me what he should do. I said, make 5 Republican friends, really friends. Mm-hmm. Once you do, they'll find out a way to help you. And sure enough, what happened, he introduced a foster care bill, and because he'd visited with all these Republicans. Senator Emhoff of Oklahoma, very conservative, he saw that he had 2 adopted kids. So he said to him, would you co-sponsor the bill? He did, got it to the Republicans. It's now the law of the land. So the point is, don't underestimate the human spirit. Don't underestimate our common humanity. Even in a world where it seems to be polluted or poisoned, that's not the case. That's not who we are as Americans.
Joe Biden seemed to start his presidency with that Bradley optimism, and he got a lot of criticism for it. There were people who thought, oh, you don't understand. These aren't the Republicans you dealt with before. You're not going to get anything done. I privately believed Joe Biden wasn't going to get anything done. I was wrong.
You were wrong.
I was very wrong. And you were probably not surprised at what Joe Biden was able to accomplish.
I was not surprised. I know who Joe Biden is. And I know what he believes about legislating. I know what he believes about the American people and his colleagues. And so sometimes what seems impossible, because we project the worst on a situation, we just don't see the whole picture. It's like seeing only part of the court. To see the whole court, you got to see what's possible. And to me, that is the genius of real leadership.
Yeah, that line you said about I'm in the optimism business, it was the first time I thought that I needed to widen my frame. I was always the worst case scenario guy, so I could always tell you how we were going to lose. I couldn't always tell you how we were going to win. Yeah. And there's a line that you have in here in this piece that is relevant to that. You say that you grew up in that small town in Missouri. You use this phrase, protected from sophistication. And there I was growing up in Boston, where we didn't think of ourselves as sophisticated, but the last thing we wanted to be was naive. So, we were the first ones to figure out the negative side of everything. But you were protected from that. You were protected from sophistication.
Right. There are 2 parts to that: protected from sophistication and propelled by dreams. Those are 2 important things. Yes, I was naive, you might say, but that's because I didn't hesitate to believe in the possibility of the human spirit. And I still don't hesitate to believe in that for our country, for our politics. And now we live in difficult times, no question about that. And the former president is certainly not helping things. But my view is that's a small part of who we are as a people. And ultimately, it's a narrow part. And it's a part that drags us down to our worst selves, as opposed to propels us forward to our best selves.
We learn in your film that when you were 52 years old and your mother was in the final weeks of her life, she said to you, Bill, you've been a good boy. I just want to take this moment to say you've been a good senator. You've been good at everything you've ever done. It's an honor to know you, honor to have you here tonight.
Well, I feel that about you, Lawrence. So it's an honor to be here with you and talk about this.
Bill Bradley, thank you very much for everything you've done, every way you helped me when we were working together. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that.
General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack
my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not? Please. Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I'll assume that we're going on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
The Megatron.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. What's readiness? What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark. General! General! We need to try evac immediately.